folks, and welcome to episode 42 of the Eva Christie Hand Knitting Podcast. I'm your host Eva, and I'm coming to you from a Perth that is completely engulfed in a heat wave on the 26th of May 2017. I'm going to try and keep this quite a brief podcast. I recorded last week. For some reason, as soon as the footage was uploaded, everything was incredibly, not so much muddled, but it was a really hazy fuzzy picture throughout, and it just wasn't going to be good for sharing at all. So I tend to upload these days and keep it private until I can edit some show notes and things and then release it to the public, but there was no way that was going to happen. Life has just been, it's been too busy really, and too upsetting to record again before now. Everyone probably worldwide will know at this point that Manchester was hit in a terror attack on Monday. There have been 22 deaths at the moment, 59 injured that we're aware of, and a lot of the casualties were just young children, and it's just so upsetting and so sad. The entire UK is in a critical terror alert at the moment, which basically means that they are expecting another attack, or it's highly likely another one will happen imminently. And for the first time ever, I have seen armed police officers in my town centre. Now, Perth, yes, is a city, but it's like a very, very small market town, really. And I was in yesterday, just briefly, before meeting a friend, and we were both away to a funeral, which again is a very, very sad thing to have to go to for a guy that was cut down very, very suddenly. He's only 54 years old and leaves behind 4 children, so very upsetting anyway. But 3 armed police officers walking in formation amongst the city centre, it should reassure us, and if anything it just made me feel so emotional that it's so sad that it has come to this, and it could happen to any of us anywhere at any time, and we have to just keep on living and keep on going. But it doesn't make it that much easier for any of us anywhere to bear, and a terrorist attack is a terrorist attack. It doesn't matter really what community or peoples it happens to, we are all one. I felt I just had to acknowledge that today on the podcast. And I'll try not to put too somber a tone on it, because really what we should all be doing and what it should remind us is that we should just take the enjoyment in each little thing and build as many positive memories as we possibly can. Yeah, so it's sad times, and it's just been really difficult to find the correct headspace to be able to try and podcast after something like that. I've been practically glued to the television set, because Manchester really isn't that far away in all terms, and we have had our instances, not so much in Scotland. I wouldn't say that we're immune to it, because we're not. But we had a foiled attempt at Glasgow airport years ago, and the Lockerbie bombing happened over Scottish airspace as well, and yeah, we're not immune, but it doesn't seem to happen to us that often here, and but it's just so incredibly sad, for lack of a better way to kind of, yeah, I can't be eloquent about it. Anyway, welcome to the podcast. You'll find more information on where to find me and show notes and all sorts of that stuff just in the down bar here. You'll find everything to do with Perth Festival of Yarn, all the links to that there. I'm the director of that wonderful, wonderful event, and I'm very, very privileged to be able to do so, and to bring that joy to people through that. Thank you if this is your first time tuning in. Please appreciate that this is not normally the way I kind of begin podcasts, and on such a down note and things. If this is your first episode, it's maybe not the best place to actually start, but thank you whether it's your first time or it's your 42nd. Each one of you is totally appreciated. Thank you for taking the time out with me. There have been no rehomed yarns this time round. I'm trying to stash manage the best I can and be mindful about what I bring into it before Perth Festival of Yarn. And I'm totally thrilled that, you know, we've got over 60 vendors now coming. We have Lise of Strikkelise coming from Athens. We have Angie from Gamer Crafting coming from London. It's just going to be such a wonderful global community atmosphere at this event, and like I say, I'm very, very proud to be able to facilitate something like that for all of us. I have some finished pieces. I've got my show notes from last week here, and I'm just kind of trying to elaborate on them. I'm saying they're finished. I haven't actually got ends woven in yet, so slightly cheaty. So the first up are these socks, which I made for my friend Tracy, and I don't think I've brought the label over with me, sorry. Details, like I say, will be in the down bar. And this was Schoppel's 100g Boots Strange. It's a mixture of wool, merseycised cotton, nylon. The pattern was with Hilda's Basic Ribbed Socks by Kate Atherley. If you've watched the previous podcast, you know that I am not the biggest fan of this pattern. I wanted to try something different for socks, and there's just aspects of it that if I was doing it again I would do completely differently. They wouldn't have been my choice, but pardon me. It's a free pattern, so you can't be too down on it, I suppose, but there were many design elements that just were not for me. Tracy has seen the socks, she loves them, they're a bit of fun. I know the pulling wouldn't be to everybody's tastes, but Tracy likes them, and yeah, they're just, do you know what, if you can give somebody a gift, give them the gift of warmth and love. And Tracy does love the other pair of socks that I made for her before, and now she's got a spare pair, and it's just really, with everything that's happening at the minute, if I can give somebody something that I know that they'll appreciate and they'll understand the time and the thought that's gone into crafting them, then that's what it is about for me. I have another piece that is finished, bar weaving in ends and blocking, and I hadn't got this finished last time I podcasted. This is the Argyll Snood by Gilpin in her Lambswool. I was leading a knit along for this in her Ravelry group, and it ends on the end of May, so I really better get a wiggle on and get this finished. I was playing serious yarn chicken towards the end. I chose to graft, and you can see the line of grafting at the moment. I'm hoping that with washing this will come out, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that end until I have washed this, just to see how the stitches do relax and fluff up, to see if I maybe need to just kind of take that out. But so yeah, you can see just slightly. I have grafted before, but normally when I graft it's just a few stitches, sort of 8 in each needle, to kind of just kitchener off a toe. I've never done it over so many stitches before, and it's a paid for pattern, so I won't give too much away, but it's 113 stitches, and it took a fair amount of time itself just to kind of kitchen it off. I was working on 3.5mm straight bamboo needles. The pattern called for 3.25mm, but it's been the first time that I've never ever been able to get gauge in about 30 years. Which is frustrating. I did a first pattern repeat in the 3.25, and there's 6 pattern repeats, so I knew when I did that and I measured it that there was no way on earth it was going to be anywhere close. 3.5mm made it far too big. Well, it made it too big, but it was the lesser of evils, and I thought with a cowl I can live with that. So that's what I did, but it did leave me with just about a meter's worth of yarn left after I grafted. So this is it. If I unfold it, I love this. I love the floating cables. I love the Tree of Life traditional lace work. It has been a labour of love, even though it's for me. The Lalland Lambswool is 100% Scottish lambswool. It's milled in Scotland, it's dyed in Scotland. It's just been an absolute delight. This is in the Haar colourway. I'll see if I can just kind of pop it up. I've just chucked my hair out the way because I'm currently wearing a factored duffel coat sun cream, because all I need to do is look at the sun, and when I next go out and it'll still be covered. But yeah, I think a layer of clothing only gives you about 7% protection SPF anyway, so I always cover myself. and properly slather on the sun cream all over my body before I put clothes on, just to protect me, because I look at the sun and I fry. So it will sit better once it's washed and the ends are in, and you have the option, you can actually wear it as a hood and bring it up. So I am thrilled, and I quite fancy just, I've got a lovely brooch pin, natural wood brooch pin somewhere that, you know, even just flipping it over and popping a nice pin in. Yeah, but really, really chuffed with that. And sorry I haven't had the time to get the ends all woven in and washed before this podcast, but you know, life kind of happens, really, doesn't it? Right, the next, excuse me, hay fever. The next work in progress I have one, in fact I don't even have one row, all I need to do is cast this off, so I really should do that and then get it blocked while we have this weather. This is the Soft Sunday pattern by Suvi Simola. I have knit it using my Melted Moglet Dyeworks yarn. I think this is a 75, no, an 80%, 20%. I believe the base is Peter Cat, although I may be wrong. And I didn't give this sort of luscious peachy shade a name because when I dyed it I just immediately thought that one's for me. And I'm not a peachy pinky sort of girl usually, although I am being very drawn to those sorts of shades at the moment. So I showed this to you before. I think I had about 3 of the lace repeats done, so we're probably about at this point. I probably won't be able to get it all in. It should essentially have another lace panel and garter stitch panel after this, but this yarn's 365 metres, and I knew that I might not be able to get quite that far out, but to be honest, for all the extra width that it's going to put on it, I'm fine. I'm happy with that. The same width and height, it's not going to be a huge amount, and this has been done on a, I think it's a 4mm needle. I'm sure it's a 4mm needle that I did this on, just cat hair, because that's what happens when you live with Moglets. Let's see if I can kind of bring it up to the camera so you can see. I'm really quite excited about how this is just going to open up once it's blocked. I think it's just going to be lovely, just a very, very light sort of throw-ons. The fact that we're only doing 7 repeats isn't the biggest issue in the world at all. I'm quite happy with that. I'll certainly not be ripping out the entire thing to find another skein. Yeah, really, really happy. I loved knitting this. I would knit this multiple times over. I think it's a perfect sort of gift knit pattern as well, because you get a break in between each of the garter sections, and the lace, you get a rest row where you purl over, and again it's a paper pattern, so I'm being very careful about how much information I give away to you. But every second row is purl, so you do get a break, and if you make a mistake then it's much easier to pick out than when you're doing a lace pattern on every single row, because that's how you end up with twisted stitches and missing yarn overs and things. But yeah, look, it's gonna block out and just open up so well. So excited. That's that. I have one other project on my needles at the moment, and I've noticed I've just closed my notebook, not at the page. So I hadn't started this at all when I had my last podcast, and now I have another pair of socks and I have one done. This is the yarn, it's caked up, it's from Deep Stash. I actually started to knit a Baktus, not a Bacchus, a Backtus in this. This is Opal self-striping sock yarn, and the Backtus pattern's actually a really simple but effective way for using like a self-striping yarn, just to get a basic sit in front of the TV type pattern to do. And I started a Backtus in this several years ago. It's been in the sort of dumping knitting box of shame. I don't know why I never continued with it, because I was enjoying it and it looked gorgeous, but for whatever reason I've decided this yarn had a higher purpose. So I ripped it out. I completely ripped out what I'd done so far, which is probably about a third, maybe a quarter, between a quarter and a third of the finished garment. I built up my wool winder. I always wind it twice just so it's not too tight. And I've done my first ever pair of socks with an afterthought heel. I don't have the label. The label's long gone, but I do remember this being part of one of their rainforest series. And I think it's something to do with the tree frog. I hope it's something to do with the tree frog. I probably got it totally wrong. But I love this Opal sock yarn. It's just awesome. And I can understand now why people are such a fan of afterthought heels. This is Knit Global. This is in their Tropicana colourway, and I think you get about 420 metres for your 100 grams. It's 75% wool, 25% nylon, so it's your basic kind of sock yarn. The colour is just awesome. I just thought it was such a fabulous, vibrant contrast. And like I say, I can understand why people go for afterthought heels now. It was my first time doing it. I was wanting to tweak my own pattern, so what I did was I put in the waist yarn, I continued working, I worked for, you know, so maybe 3 centimetres or so down, and then I just unpicked the waist yarn and decided at that point that, do you know what, I'll just chuck the afterthought heel in now, and then I can try it on my foot as I go and adapt. I got it. And yeah, it's just basically another toe, guys. What saucery is this? But I mean, I essentially did this in about 2 days. I loved it. I'm mindful that a pair of socks like this may not wear as well, but I suppose you can always, the construction of this, I mean, you could cut out the heel. I mean, if you didn't want to darn it, you could cut it out and you could pop in another afterthought heel, couldn't you? There's always ways and means. But I think for my first attempt at an afterthought heel, it's not too shabby at all. And I may do this for my next couple of pairs just to add a bit of variety and spice into my personal sock collection. But yeah, I am loving these socks so much. That's sock 1. And I've got a bit of work on sock 2, so just my usual 2.5mm 9-inch circs, high sharps. There we go. And I'm just trying to knit a little bit at the time because I am enjoying this colourway so much. I just want to enjoy it, really, kind of extend that pleasure, although I have a significant stash of sock yarn in my studio, so it's not as if I'm running, you know, in any sort of danger at all of running out of yarn. And I'm very sorry if you can hear my tummy rumbling there. It's been a bit of a morning. I've had an old energy company complaint to deal with that was sitting with the Ombudsman over a year ago, and somebody has messed up somewhere and decided to put debt collectors onto us. So I've just been dealing with that, and they're phoning me back, and if I don't record now I'm not going to get the chance to, because later on today, guys, I'm meeting Beardychiel and David ThisBoy. So John's coming down from the Highlands, the very tip of Scotland, on the coast. He and Janet are driving down. They're stopping over in Perth overnight before they go off to Rhodes for a fortnight, and as David's only about 16 miles away in Dundee, he's going to come over. So John, Janet, David and possibly my Josh and I, sorry, you must be able to hear my stomach rumbling, how shameful, utterly shameful. We are all going for curry at Tabla tonight, so really quite excited about that. Because Tabla are, especially because Tabla are supplying the catering for our Saturday night social. For all the details about that are on Ravelry and the Perth Festival of Yarn group in the minute. So if you're coming and you're going to be about on the Saturday night, come join us. It's going to be epic. So I'm going to try not to prattle on too much longer. I'm just wondering how much time and space I've got left. I've not been watching a huge amount of television. I am working my way through Versailles Series 2. Reading, I'll just kind of touch on this a bit because I have quite a lot that I've read. I am doing really well at continuing to switch off any electronic devices at 9 o'clock at night and trying to spend at least an hour sort of reading. I'm finding it a really fulfilling sort of thing to do. So first up, I finished Cradle to Grave by Aline Templeton. Verdict is although I love her D.I. Marjorie Fleming series, I think this novel's 6th or 7th in the series. It probably is the weakest one so far. I really didn't enjoy it as much as the others. And then I finished Salem Witch Society. I'm not going to say too much about this in case it sounds like I'm totally down on it. What I would say though is that I would have enjoyed it better had it not been packaged completely wrong. I'm feeling supported in saying that and validated in saying that because I read some of the reviews on Goodreads after I'd finished reading it and they all seemed to agree with me. I chose this novel from my local library because it told me, last sort of summary paragraph, rich in history, mystery and witchcraft, The Salem Witch Society is a twisting, terrifying thriller, a dark fairy tale for readers who loved discovery of witches and interpretation of murder. Now the interpretation of murder is on my to-read list. I loved Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness, but all that is similar in this is that there is a theme of witchcraft, nothing like what's in A Discovery of Witches, and there's an odd fleeting reference to the Knights Templar and various orders. That's about it. It's a male author, but it's written in a very masculine way. The most descriptive passages are where there's conflict and fighting. I had to push myself to finish it. There's a sequel and I will not be wasting my time with it, but do you know what, I probably would have enjoyed it more had I not read the back, and that was my expectation, and that seems to be the gist of what other reviewers are saying. I have read The Tiller of Waters by Hoda Barakat, and that was my marker just falling out, but it's fine because I finished it. This novel has been translated from the Arabic. The author is Lebanese. I thought it was really interesting. I believe she's Lebanese. It's saying that the book is from Lebanon. Really interesting just to pick something up, a different flavour, a different culture, because normally when you go on Goodreads or recommendation sites or something, you tend to get overwhelmed by Western literature, or there's, that whole Scandi noir thing is still really big, but just a flavour of something different, and I'm a big fan of not so much that it matters what you read, what matters is the fact that you're reading, because it still expands your minds and horizons, and even if you're really not enjoying what you're reading, it's still a challenge and you're still empathising. It's been enough to evoke a reaction out of you that you're not enjoying it. So this was fascinating, and it touches a lot, and I didn't realise at the time when I chose it, but it talks a lot about weaving styles and fabrics and the different types of fabrics, and quite some descriptive technical words for textiles and such, so if that's your thing you may find that quite interesting. And the other novel that I've started is The Valley of Amazement by Amy Tan. Now I can't remember whether this was given to me, passed on by someone else, or I picked this up in a charity shop, because I did get my books through various different sources, but just the way that this is written, it looks like it was a copy to be proofread or a promotional copy, because it tells you about the author being in the UK for publicity and events and who to contact and what the ISBNs will be and such, and the way that it's got all this text on the front cover to kind of describe. It seems to be very much a sort of promotional sort of copy or whatever, but I'm leaning more towards it's probably like a copy to be proofread or something, because it is littered with spelling mistakes, but it's not really irking me as much as it normally would in this. Probably about a think I'm 60% through according to Goodreads, and I do like Amy Tan. I've read The Joy Club and I have read The 100 Secret Senses. So I do enjoy her style and her subject matter, although this being based a lot on courtesans from 1900s to kind of present day probably wouldn't appeal to everybody, but if you do like those sort of real true to life, heartbreaking stories about the hardships that women have to go through just because of circumstances in life, then you probably would enjoy Amy Tan's novels. Bit of pod love to finish, guys, and a wee shout out. I'll do the wee shout out first to say that 10th of June, go check my social media because it's all sort of there at the minute. But I am hosting an event for Worldwide Knit in Public Day on the 10th of June between 11 in the morning and 3 in the afternoon at Perth Museum and Art Gallery. I think we're event number 5209, but don't quote me on that. We did it last year, it was a great success. It's open to anybody who wants to come round, but if you want a wee bit more info on it, then go and look on some of the social media and just check all the details on that, or go and check on the website. They do have a bit of a delay in uploading and registering all the events, but have filled in the registration forms for that. But pod love to finish. So my pod love today goes to, okay, first up, Rosie from Pixel Atlantis. Imagine my joy when I discovered that Rosie is another Scottish video knitting podcaster, guys. She also loves crochet. She's a student, I think she's just based outside of Edinburgh, and she's just genuinely lovely, which is fabulous. She'd come up on my radar a wee while ago. I think she's got 20 episodes out now, and I am working my way through a back catalogue. But I had her on my pods to watch list. I knew she was a UK podcaster, I didn't realise she was a Scottish one. But Rosie will also be joining us at Perth Festival of Yarn at our Lalland Studio podcast lounge. That's exciting. And I also want to give a bit of a shout out to Nadia from the Cottage Lovers Notebook. In particular, I've been listening to a few of her back episodes, but I wanted to highlight episode 8 that she released in February, because she interviewed Angie, Angie Panazzo. I probably got your surname totally wrong there. I'm so sorry. Anyway, she is the lovely force behind Gamercrafting, who are coming up to Perth Festival of Yarn, and they do vegan yarns, guys. And it was just so lovely to hear a bit more about the makers that we as a community appreciate and what they're doing. And Nadia's just got the most soothing, beautiful voice. It's an audio podcast, so if that's your thing, or you're looking for something it's not distracting in the least while you're knitting or driving or whatever, then that's definitely one to try out. So soothing, and just lovely to kind of come across that when it's one of our suppliers as well, and to learn that I've actually got a fair bit in common with Angie. So I'm looking forward to meeting her, because I know that she'll be up the day before, so hopefully she's going to come along to our social event too. So I'm getting things flashing up here, guys. I've got a wee bit of time left. I hope I've not been too rushed today, but I'm probably not in the best headspace for podcasting at the minute, just like a lot of people right now. But thank you for spending time with me today. Happy knitting, happy spinning, happy crocheting, happy whatever it is you do. Take care of yourself, take care of one another, especially at the moment when it's such scary times for all of us out there and we're feeling particularly vulnerable. Come along to Worldwide Knit in Public Day if you can. Further down the line, if you can make it through to Perth Festival of Yarn, I genuinely would love you to be part of our event, and I will speak with you all again hopefully really quite soon. Bye bye for now.